Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly.
You're good.
Hey, James. We don't
Does
have
Mel-
quorum right now, so we're waiting.
Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here. We're going to call the meeting to order. We're going to start with approval of the meeting minutes from February 19, 2025. Can I get a motion?
Minutes as written.
And a second? Perfect. Any questions or comments for meeting minutes? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we need a motion to accept April 2025 financial statements. So moved. A move and second. Thank you. Financial statements. Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon. Sorry. Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Teva Arapari, not Trisha. Sorry. Trisha's duties have kind of changed a lot, so I was brought onto the fiscal team, and I'll be taking over financials going forward. So hopefully I can answer some of your questions. A couple corrections on today's financials. These financials are reflective of actually the first 10 months of the authority's fiscal year, and that these were closed early to accommodate the city's change to Oracle. So going only through April 18th, which is when we closed out the older system. Still working on reporting, so we're hoping to have some of those as current as possible for the next reporting meeting. As of April 18th, the district has collected 97% of the budget revenue for the district-wide fund, 90% in the snowmelt fund, and has spent approximately 63% and 80% of the budgeted appropriations for the district-wide and snowmelt funds, respectively. You have your balance sheets reflected in Statement A. I just wanted to note that for the restricted reserves, that all the reserves for the Promenade and Monument Park districts have all been spent. You might already know that already. For Statement B, you have your actuals to budget for the district-wide and snowmelt funds. I believe we're performing pretty well. And then on your Statement Cs, these are the schedule of expenditures that we would ask for your approval on. These are all the expenses from February 1st. I believe there was a meeting that was canceled, so we just added the expenses from, I think the last meeting was through March 31st, so anything from that was added to this list. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer some of those. And if I don't have the answers for you, I can try to get them for you at a later time. Thank you.
Any questions? Josh?
The budgeted and actual for clean and safe disaster program, is a huge difference? Is there something behind that, or
So
am I just reading it wrong?
Yeah, so the
budget, we'll hit that. The way we structure it is the DDA pays their share first, and then the DID gets their bills throughout the rest of the year. So by the time we're at the end of this fiscal year,
So it's tracking?
yeah.
It's just reflecting
Yep.
funding because of that?
Yep.
Of that? Okay.
Good question.
Okay, so we are going to have a motion and a second to accept the financials. We'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor say aye. Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Teva.
Thanks, Teva.
Appreciate it. Next up is fiscal year 2026 budget adoption.
Yeah, and I think Melvin is going to carry this one, but just a reminder, our budget process, you all recommended a budget to the City Commission back in February. They heard it in May, approved it unanimously with no changes. Now it comes back to you for adoption, but we want to just kind of give you a reminder of what's in there, and I'll let Melvin take it from there.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. So as Tim mentioned, the budget process, no changes. So you've already seen this budget. This is the budget that we sent to City Commission earlier this year for approval and back to you for recommendation. I just want to run through really quick some of the changes that we made this year in the budget just to refresh your memory. So revenue on the district-wide side, so 3% increase, which totaled about $38,000. which was based on CPI, and then added just under $58,000 to account for the completion of Studio Tower. So it looks like, according to the budget, an 8% district-wide increase. However, it's really only a 3% increase, accounting for also the almost 8,000 for the completion of Studio Tower. And then residential assessment also increased by 3,000. This was really just again to account for Studio Tower's completion and the 25 new residential parcels that were added to the DID roll. The base rate for residents at $120 a year did not change, and then we made no changes to the snow melt assessment. Felt like that was still meeting our needs. On the expenses side, at the time of the budget development, we had an RFP for ambassador services out, added some added some dollars to that expenditure, anticipating an increase. Same thing with irrigation and utilities, anticipated an increase in that. Same thing with flower planting, which we'll talk about a little bit later at this meeting, with some of the changes. And then increasing supplies, and then we saw a decrease on the city's A87 costs, which are provided to us by the city. And so we just sort of report back what they are, built them into the budget. Happy to answer any questions about this, but like I said, you've all seen this already, and so no changes were made post recommending this to the city.
Kate?
Just a couple questions, and I'm sorry that I didn't ask these last time, but curious about, okay, so you said snow melt, still meeting our needs. How does Lion Square reopening impact the snow melt scope for the DID, if at all?
Yeah, I'm gonna kick that to Tim.
Doesn't change.
No, okay. So that's being handled elsewhere. And then, I know I could have asked this last time also, but the quality of life special project, can you just give a few bars about what that output actually is?
Yeah, so
I have forgotten.
That's a great question. That is specifically funds generated from the residential assessment for the addition of 2 ambassadors to the team that are focused on residential needs.
Okay,
So
thank you
that's
for
sort
that
of built
reminder.
into the ambassador scope of work.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any additional questions or comments?
So on the ambassador program, is the 11%, are there additional ambassadors, or is that just an assumed increase in the cost overall?
So when we were building this budget out, we really didn't know what the new cost was going to be, because we were in the middle of trying to gather those service requests back.
Sure.
And so we sort of just built that expense in, assuming that the cost would go up, and shockingly it did. So
Okay.
We'll talk about that next.
Anything else? Okay, we'll go ahead and need a motion for adoption of the fiscal year 2026 budget.
So moved.
Okay. Moved and supported. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Next item, fiscal year 2026 flower planting.
So that's me again.
Yep.
Another one of our regular sort of standing items at this part of the year. No real presentation other than to just show you some of the beautiful work that we're doing out in the district, but I will talk about a couple of things. So this year we've added quite a bit of new stuff. So we're adding 8 new sort of independent planters throughout the city. So we're adding 2 on Ottawa between Monroe Center and Lewis Street. Thank you, James. To enhance the green space along that corridor. So we've identified 2 locations on that street where we normally would plant trees, but we can't because there's a steam line that runs right through the tree beds that keeps killing our trees. So we've capped those off, and we are going to put some planters on those. Those will be the same planters that you see, the big round ones. There's not a picture of them up there, that are on sort of the corner of Monroe Center that run along the Ottawa corridor. They'll be planted on the same schedule as the Monroe Center and the Ottawa pots. We're also adding 6 new planters to the Zikla, which is the first picture on the far left here. So we installed a new Zikla platform on South Division, which is an enhancement to the bus stop there. It actually brings the bus stop out into the parking lane, which allows the bus to pull directly up to the Zikla and doesn't have to pull out of traffic. This creates a better environment for the people getting on the bus. It's much safer. It's at grade. It prevents the bus from having to sort of do the weird depressure thing where it shrinks down. So everything's just sort of flush level with the sidewalk and helps keep traffic flowing a little bit better. So we're going to add 6 planters to that to amenitize it, along with a couple of benches, but that's outside the scope of this. And then the Ionia whiskey barrels, which you see there in the middle, we are adding 2 seasons to those to make those 4-season planters, which will match Monroe Center, and Ottawa. So Ionian will start to have that sort of changeover every year. And they actually were planted this spring, so they look really great. And then one change we made, which is not reflective in the cost because we just got a bunch of bulbs from McCandy, who was gracious to give us them, on the far right. Hopefully you noticed this spring, a bunch of tulips and daffodils have popped up, so we have started planting some of these bulbs in and around key areas in downtown. We'll continue to expand that just to add additional pop of color in the spring, something that our team doesn't have to necessarily maintain and replant every year, just sort of naturally happens. I mentioned at the DDA, I'll mention here, we're not trying to rival Holland in our attempt to plant some tulips, but just thought we'd add some color to the district. We're not advocating for tulip time to be moved here anytime yet. So the total ask for the McCandy contract is a little over $203,000, with the DIDS portion not to exceed hold on, I gotta get this right. So the Downtown Development Authority approved $58,150 at their meeting. The Downtown Improvement District is being asked here to approve $138,000, with the remaining $7,000 being covered by the Monroe North TIFA. We do a little bit of planting up there as well. And I'm happy to entertain any questions that you all might have about this.
Sorry, just
Yes,
a
Kate.
quick, another reminder of how the split is calculated between the authorities.
So it's based on the amount of planting that happens. So obviously all of the planting happens within the DDA, so they pick up the majority of the share outside of the DID. The TIFA only receives a small amount of planting, and that 7,000 is reflective of the exact amount that's billed. Yeah, and then the Improvement District picks up the lion's share, since it's the Improvement District's team that manages the planting and the weeding and all of the things after that.
Yep, okay.
Any additional questions? All right, thank you for that. Can I get a motion for the 2026 flower planting recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, happy planting, thank you. Next, we have the Downtown Ambassador Program. Melvin, once again.
So we talked about this, and on the screen are just some statistics and some pictures. These were all part of the presentation that Rebecca provided to this body at our last meeting. And so I'm not going to necessarily go through them. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the process for selecting our current contractor, as well as the few changes that we have made to the contract. So at our last meeting, we mentioned that there was an RFP on the streets to collect bids. We had 3 qualified bids that responded to the RFP, which was great. In my tenure here, we have not had that many that were actually viable competitors to our current contractor, Block by Block. So we had Block by Block and then 2 other entities bid on that. So we formed a DID subcommittee, which Monica and Doug were on. And if you were there and I forgot, I apologize, but I remembered those 2. We also had Ingrid, the executive director of Uptown, because they utilize piggyback on our contract to have ambassador services in their district. And then myself and another member of our operations team were on that. We reviewed the RFP responses, and then we had each of the respondents come in and provide us with an overview of their services. After receiving all of that information, reviewing it, and having the opportunity to ask a lot of questions, the body decided that it was best to stick with our current contractor, Block by Block, that they were doing a great job and really presented the strongest case for services provided to our district. And so we are working with them to establish a 1-year contract with built-in potential extensions to that contract. No major changes in terms of deployment schedule or staffing. We did look at wages. So the base wage for ambassadors hovers around $17.50. Given the tenure of most of the ambassador team, most of them fall around the $20 range. So we are seeing a little bit of increase on the contract just to accommodate that sort of natural raise in their salaries. And so really, that's great news. For those of you that have been around this table for a while, we'll point to 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when our turnover rate on the ambassador program was quite high. And now, we have a handful of ambassadors, like 2 or 3, that have been here maybe a year or 6 months, and those are seasonal employees. The majority of the team has been with
block by block and on our ambassador team for over 2 years. So that's really good news that we're having such good retention, and we felt like the wages where they were at were really good. So no real changes with the structure of the contract or the deployment or anything like that. The other biggest change that came out of that was the truck that was purchased way back in 2015 and used 364 days a year needs to be replaced, and so we've built that into the contract price as well. Total ask is an amount not to exceed, oh, sorry, one more change. So to Kate's earlier question about the quality of life, the line item in the budget, we were being billed and had a separate contract for those residential ambassadors. We have rolled all of that up into one contract now. So you will see the contract looks like it's much higher, but it's actually accounting for both the residential ambassador and our standard ambassador contract as well. So we're not having to deal with multiple invoices on the admin team side, and we're not having to manage more than one contract. So all of that was rolled up. So the total ask, the total for the contract is $1.3 million. The DIDS portion of that is an amount not to exceed $937,193,000, which, if you look at the budget, is budgeted in between the operations line item and the quality of life line item back in the budget. With all of that, I'm happy. And I will also mention the DDA approved their portion of the funding at their meeting last week, which was an amount not to exceed $400,000. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you all might have about that.
And so just to clarify, to make sure I understand, so the $937,000 does or does not include the residential?
It does.
It does,
It
got
does,
it.
yeah.
And then you mentioned that the DDA already did approve their part of the 400.
Correct. And then we will approve, hopefully, fingers crossed, the contract at the DDRI Board of Advisors, because they are the ones that hold the contract next week at their meeting.
Great. Any additional questions or comments? Okay. We'll entertain a motion to approve the amount for the Downtown Ambassador Program. Anybody?
So moved.
Okay. Supported. Moved and supported. Thank you both. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. All right, next we have DGRI President and CEO report. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. I just wanted to give you all a few updates on things, maybe not necessarily in the DID orbit, but impactful for downtown. So first, our team was out at the amphitheater a week ago, did a tour inside the facility. It's looking great. I'm sure you've seen it pop up, and we're all getting excited to see it going. We did all wear our required hats and goggles. In addition, it's exciting to see the riverfront work start to take shape. So the East Riverfront plan that you're probably all familiar with, full vision is from Fulton down to Wealthy. The portion within the amphitheater will introduce elements such as this, so steps down in the river, trees, and obviously an extension of the trail. So that work is now underway. You start to see some of that happening right down in that area right there. So that is looking good. And at the DDA last week, they approved this project, as you might have heard or wouldn't have been surprised to hear, came in a little bit over budget. So the DDA stepped in last week to help fund some of the furniture elements as well as the lighting to make sure that the entryway on the riverfront, that you start to see that right here, is what was initially designed. So that is moving forward and looking good. And then the future phases are still planned to move forward. It'll just happen after phase one, which is obviously the priority given the amphitheater. So exciting to see that happening. Staying on the riverfront, Lion Square is set to open before the 4th of July. We have a target date in mind that I don't want to overpromise on, but it'll be open by the 4th of July. Looking really good. This is the snow melt going in that Deputy City Manager Barron's brought up. But yeah, looking very good. Additionally, last week the DDA approved funding for projection mapping infrastructure that'll go in. So this will allow us to do year-round lighting. And you may remember we had a projection show out there during World of Winter a couple years ago. That was a huge hit, and so we wanted to find a way to permanently install that. So that was added in. You'll see the towers are right. You can see the tall ones right there. So it'll be housed in there. We have a program that's getting built that'll kind of be the, at least to start, the standard program that'll go out, but we'll be able to customize it as we go. So you'll start to see that. Probably be installed, it'll be installed after the park itself opens up, but this year yet. So exciting to see that. Sticking on the riverfront, up in Monroe North, a few of us were out celebrating the groundbreaking for Canal Park. That was at the end of April. That's well under construction now. Going to be another great space on our riverfront when it wraps up next year. And I should make sure to mention the city is a huge partner in all this stuff as well. Speaking of the city, we also approved our portion of some funding to continue on the path of revitalizing Calder Plaza. So the city has a planned deck replacement happening in fiscal year 26. You all might recall some of the master planning that we've been doing over the past 4 or 5 years. We feel like this is a great opportunity to implement at least portions of that vision. And so we are moving ahead with that contract right now. So conceptual designs are done, and that's what's sort of reflected here. And these are some of the things that have been conceptualized. This will allow us to get more into the details of what is implementable and what do we have the budget for. And so some of those questions will start to be answered over the next year or so.
A lot more green islands.
We want to see more green,
Yeah.
so it's less brutal, especially on a day like today. And then just wanted to highlight a few programming things going on. Sunset Cinema down at Studio Park is underway already. Next movie coming up this weekend, Shrek. So come on down if you haven't had a chance yet. These are always a huge amount of fun. Yes, so far.
Unlike last year.
And ends in end of August, so you got
Pretty
plenty
much
of
every
time.
Saturday through the summer with the exception of 4th of July weekend.
Yeah. Good turnout so far, too?
Very, very
Yeah.
good. It's been full both weeks. Yeah.
Love it. Relax at Rosa as well is underway. So we are, it will be up tomorrow. We're celebrating Juneteenth, so our office as well as city and county are closed, but we are still going to have Relax at Rosa. And that'll be in advance of the Juneteenth celebration out on Calder Plaza, kicking off at 4. Farmers Market had some weather issues with this one. We were supposed to have another one today. We're expecting some storms, so we canceled. But nonetheless, we're planning this through October, or into October. So every Wednesday over at the Les Conchas futsal courts, Farmers Market set up. So plenty of chances still to go hit that. And then Return to the River. This is our marketing poster for that. So our graphic design team, and in particular our graphic designer Max, did an awesome job with this. This is the stuff you'll start to see out there for the event in August. And then these are some of the installations that'll be happening. And then I think I have one more in here. So these are some of the larger scale artist installations that'll be out that folks can come enjoy. I think that's it. But happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Tim? Thank you. So many exciting things. I love that. Okay. Now we have open for public comment. Any public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll move forward. And board member discussion. Any type of, yes, Kate, thank you for your participation.
Captive audience. but,
Yes.
The city has been working on improving the communications that we have with adjacent residents and businesses for our capital projects. And the Canal Park grand opening was a case in point of why we need to improve our communications. Impacted Linear quite significantly, and we did not have as much robust communication about construction schedule when we were starting and all of those things to allow that business to prepare. So we're trying to remedy that now, but we're piloting some things on what we call the Super 6 projects, which are mostly construction projects outside of the core of downtown, but Division is part of that. And so I'm just asking you all as spread the word to us or reach out to me in terms of additional feedback. We're just looking for ways that we can appropriately, with general taxpayer dollars, do a better job, particularly with small businesses, about the impacts of some of the biggest projects that will either temporarily or permanently remove parking, that have people rerouted, that make it less convenient. And we're leaning into partnerships with improvement authorities to see if we can help bring more marketing dollars to the table. We can't use general taxpayer dollars for those kinds of things, but trying to lean into different resources to particularly mitigate for small businesses, which we know are still kind of struggling. So anyway, just if you have feedback, you have people we should connect with, feel free to reach out and let me know. So we are trying to improve on that front. So appreciate the help. And then I will also say, kudos to Melvin. I met with Matthew Rothenberg from the Hartside Business District recently, and he had nothing but good things to say about the team and Melvin and their efforts to connect and help that business association sort of, I don't know, increase its effectiveness and its reach and its the jazz that's happening in South Division.
I was just gonna have them sign up for Melvin's newsletter, because he sends out all the road closings and everything.
Oh, perfect.
When you connect with, you crush it. I always know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a team effort. Some of those folks are in there, but yeah, thank you.
That's how I always know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
When I push somebody to get certain.
Oh, it's Melvin.
I always love how you do your pictures. I'm like, when have you had time to go downtown and get these random shots? It's so funny.
You got one on the amphitheater too.
I did, yeah. That was last week's, I don't remember, but yeah, there was one there.
Is that a bulldozer? I should.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I should have asked this when it came up on the agenda as a discussion point, but with the bidding that you did for the ambassador program, was there anything that we learned from the other two bids on that were like, oh, they do this differently, this is interesting? I'm just curious if that is shaped in any way the new contract that was formed, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the companies that bid, this was sort of their first foray into this type of work. And so I actually think they probably learned more from us than we did from them. We gave them some really good feedback about how to be more competitive in the future. It was fun to see them trying to do some new stuff, and I'm always thankful for new organizations that want to bid for this type of work. This is really sort of niche work, and it's hard to get organizations outside of our sort of standard to bid. So it was good to see. Good to see them bid. The other one that bid has been doing this for a while. They do it, significantly differently than how Block by Block does it, and they run it a couple of different ways. So they run several in-house programs similar to how Block by Block does it, and then they also assist organizations with sort of building their own internal program. And so we learned a lot about that process, because that's something we've looked at in the past, is potentially bringing the ambassador program in-house. Ultimately, we did not decide to do that and decided to continue with our existing contractor, but it certainly raised a few questions that we thought we might want to look into, and so we're kind of doing some of that homework now. But right now, we're happy with Block by Block and the services that they're providing, and so we don't see any reason to really change.
Great,
But
thanks.
yeah, great question.
I was gonna say, Kate, I think I have some ideas. If we could look at next year's programs, we should touch base on. I had some ideas I want to do, but I need like 6 months heads up that I think could provide free resources.
Okay.
And then 2, I just wanted to share that we're celebrating the success of the 100 and 100 effort at Monica's Place at Rockford later today. As of yesterday, we're at 123 chronically homeless, permanently housed. Almost 50 more in the process of referral, and there's about 200-ish remaining on the list after those 50. So we're getting somewhere. There's a lot more work ahead, but it's been awesome, and so many people have helped. So if you see any of the partners, please tell them thank you for the work, and tell them to keep it up, because they're working their butts off, and it's been fantastic.
Well, and thank you, because you've been working your butt off on this one, and it takes somebody to get it across the finish line. So that's been a big effort. Thank you. Anything additional?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I was just saddened to hear about the news of Mike Ellis.
Yes. Yes. No, we appreciate, he's been so involved with a lot of the work here and with our community in general. That was a tough loss. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
All right. If nothing else, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Stay cool.